the mystery and the most dangerous place on the moon. What nobody's told you. Welcome to Mind-Blown Space. Here, we don't just talk about the universe, we explore it with you. Get ready to uncover the most mind-boggling mysteries of the cosmos, told like never before. If you've ever looked up at the sky with questions, this is your place. Intrigue on the lunar surface. The moon has always been a strange mirror for humanity, a constant presence in our skies, seemingly familiar, yet deeply unknown. And among all its silent, desert-like landscapes, there's one spot that stands out not for its beauty or craters, but for the aura of mystery and danger that surrounds it, the lunar South Pole. For decades, this region has been the subject of speculation, wild theories, and ever more ambitious missions. Why so much obsession with this specific patch of our satellite? The answer is buried in the eternal darkness of its craters, where not a single ray of sunlight has shone for billions of years. In those frozen abysses, scientists believe they've found the key to the future of space exploration, water in the form of ice. But this discovery hasn't been a walk in the park. What started as a hunch turned into a full-on race between space agencies, each scrambling to be the first to confirm what seemed impossible. And the more this region is explored, the more secrets pop up like unwanted party guests. The terrain of the lunar South Pole is rough, uncharted, and brutally hostile. Temperatures plunge to unimaginable lows, and communications get scrambled thanks to the terrain's complexity. Still, experts are convinced something crucial is hiding there. Not just because of the water that could sustain future human colonies, but because of buried clues in the soil that might rewrite our understanding of the solar system. The lunar South Pole isn't just a spot on a map. It's a challenge, a mystery, and for many, the next frontier. And this is just the beginning of what's lurking beneath the surface. Explorations that ended in shadows. The lunar South Pole has long been the most ambitious, and at the same time, the most feared destination of space programs. It's not a place you conquer easily. The eternal shadows covering many of its craters don't just block sunlight, they also hide the risks lurking beneath its surface. Unimaginable temperatures, brittle soils, and geography designed to challenge any aerospace engineer. The first attempts to unveil its secrets came from the old Soviet Union. The robotic probe sent in the 1970s managed to extract lunar soil samples and, against all odds, detected traces of water in tiny amounts. But that discovery was quickly dismissed as Earth contamination. Still, the seed of suspicion was planted. Decades later, the United States picked up the search with renewed enthusiasm. Probes like Clementine and Lunar Prospector orbited the moon in search of firmer clues. That's when they started picking up unsettling signals. Craters that had never received a single ray of sunlight, zones with huge concentrations of hydrogen. But, as if the satellite itself resisted being stripped bare, no mission could conclusively confirm the existence of water. Even the most advanced space agencies failed in their attempts. Japan, with its ambitious Kaguya spacecraft, ended up crashing it on the surface without obtaining conclusive evidence. The perpetual shadows seemed to swallow not only the light but also the hopes. The challenge wasn't just technical. The lunar South Pole is an environment seemingly designed for total isolation. Communications weaken, temperatures drop to extremes where machinery trembles, and the terrain, apparently solid, can collapse at any moment. Nothing guarantees success. Every attempt is a calculated risk, a battle against an indifferent environment. And yet, humanity insists. Because the darker the place, the more intense our need to light a fire. Water, secrets, and possibilities. For a long time, the mere idea of finding water on the moon seemed more like a fantasy from science fiction than real science. But the signs were persistent. Traces of hydrogen, spectral echoes on sensors, chemical patterns suggesting something more. Then, finally, a mission hit the jackpot. A small probe descended in a controlled manner at the lunar South Pole, and during its fall, sent data that shook the scientific community. There, in that corner of perpetual darkness, were clear signs of water. The news made headlines worldwide. It wasn't liquid water, of course, but ice trapped inside craters that haven't seen sunlight for billions of years. But its mere existence changed everything. Because where there is water, there is the possibility of life, or at least survival, habitable bases, fuel generated on site, autonomy beyond Earth. This discovery completely transformed how scientists and space visionaries began to look at the satellite. The South Pole ceased to be just a mysterious dot on a lunar map and became a tangible promise. A promise of expansion, colonization, human permanence beyond our home planet. The presence of water also raises new questions. How did it get there? Is it in more places than we think? Could it be evidence of more complex cosmic processes? Every answer leads to new mysteries, and the lunar enigma grows. What's fascinating is that the discovery not only serves science, but it also awakens collective imagination. If it's possible to extract and use that water, we could build bases, grow food, and, most ambitiously of all, embark on farther journeys from the moon as a launch platform. The lunar South Pole is no longer just the most dangerous place on our satellite. It is, perhaps, the key that could open the door to the solar system. The hidden legacy and what lies ahead. To this day, the lunar South Pole remains wrapped in a shroud of mystery. We've learned that beneath its eternal silence lie fundamental keys to humanity's future. Yes, we know there's ice, but we still don't know the exact quantity, how to extract it efficiently, or whether its presence is stable or fleeting. The missions that have approached this area have raised more questions than answers, and that, precisely, is what makes it so magnetic for science. The craters sunk in perpetual shadow continue to challenge our technology. We have yet to send a crewed mission to step foot there, but space agencies are already plotting routes. NASA, the European Space Agency, and emerging powers like India and China are preparing missions aimed directly at this enclave. It's no longer just about confirming the presence of water. It's about answering an even more ambitious question: can we live there? But amid every new hypothesis, every improved topographic map, there's something that cannot be overlooked. This dark corner of the moon reminds us how little we still know about the universe, even on the closest celestial bodies. It pushes us to imagine futures where our footprints don't end on Earth but stretch out toward the stars. What other secrets does the moon hide beneath its perpetual shadows? What legacy have cosmic impacts left in these unexplored regions? What stories have yet to be unearthed? The race to the lunar South Pole has become more than a scientific mission. It's a statement of intent for our species. Each new discovery brings us closer not only to understanding our satellite better, but also to redefining what it means to be human in the universe. It's no longer just about exploring out of curiosity or international prestige. It's about survival, evolution, transcendence. Because if the discovery of water on the moon has shown us anything, it's that the universe has resources waiting to be tapped. And the moon, our first step beyond the planet, represents the perfect laboratory to test the future. Imagine for a moment a functional, autonomous lunar base operating on solar power and using lunar ice as a source of drinking water and oxygen. Imagine habitable modules where astronauts don't just survive, but live, research, and dream. Imagine even crops adapted to low gravity, sprouting inside sealed greenhouses, supported by Earth technology but under a sky without atmosphere. All of this no longer belongs in the realm of science fiction. We are closer than ever. The development of next-generation pressurized suits, three-dimensional printers capable of building structures from lunar regolith, and artificial intelligence systems that could assist crews in real time, all converge toward the same goal: establishing a human presence in the most inhospitable yet promising place on the moon. But let's not forget, this path isn't free of dilemmas. Who will control these resources? Under what laws will lunar ice exploitation be regulated? How will scientific ethics be maintained in a terrain where geopolitical competition has already begun to play its cards? The shadows of the South Pole not only hide water and ancient secrets, they also reflect our own human tensions, ambition, the need to advance, but also the risk of repeating past mistakes. Still, the potential is immense. The lunar South Pole is not just a cold spot on a dead satellite. It's the beating heart of humanity's next great adventure. It's the stage where everything we've learned and everything we still must invent will be tested. And the most exciting part is that, for the first time in a long while, this isn't just a futuristic dream. It's a near, tangible possibility in the making. In that forgotten corner of the moon, where silence and shadow reign, the prologue to our expansion to other worlds might be unfolding. The moment to look up with the same awe as the ancients has returned. But this time, we do it with the technology to get there, and the responsibility to do it right. And here's where this channel comes in. If you feel that cosmic itch, that need to understand what lies beyond the sky we see every night, you're in the right place. Subscribe to Space Flipante and join us on this journey through the universe's enigmas. Because the next big revelation might just be around the corner, and we'll be here to tell you all about it. The hidden truth of the universe. We are not alone. The universe is not an empty place. For centuries, human beings have looked up at the sky, wondering if we are alone. That question is not only philosophical, it is also scientific. As technology has advanced, our ability to observe the farthest corners of the cosmos has revealed something astonishing. The universe is full of planets. The numbers are overwhelming. In our own galaxy, the Milky Way, it is estimated that there are more than 100 billion planets. Many of them orbit within the habitable zone of their stars, that narrow range of distance where liquid water could exist, an essential element for life as we know it. For years, astronomers focused on searching for planets similar to Earth, thinking that life must resemble our own. but that approach has changed. Today, it is believed that life could develop under very different, even extreme conditions. On our own planet, scientists have found living organisms in unthinkable places, in underwater volcanoes, in the icy layers of Antarctica, and even inside nuclear reactors. These beings, known as extremophiles, have expanded the definition of what is considered a habitable environment. And if life can adapt to such conditions here, why not elsewhere in the cosmos? That is the logic behind current exploration missions. Mars, Europa, Enceladus, and Titan are some of the celestial bodies where scientists are searching for signs of life past or present. Not because they imitate Earth, but because they present basic ingredients such as water, organic compounds, and energy sources. Each new discovery raises a troubling possibility. Perhaps we are not the exception, but the rule. Perhaps life is not a cosmic rarity, but an inevitable consequence of natural laws. If that is true, then the existence of other forms of life in the universe is not only possible but probable. And the most unsettling thought is that these life forms could be so different from us that we might not even recognize them. Signals from space we still don't understand. For more than half a century, humanity has been sending and receiving radio signals into outer space. The SETI project, which stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, has been at the forefront of this effort. Using giant radio telescopes, scientists scan the sky in search of patterns that cannot be explained by natural phenomena. And although most results have been cosmic noise, some puzzling signals have left a mark on scientific history. The most famous of all is the so-called WOW signal, detected in 1977 by a radio telescope in Ohio. It was an intense, perfectly structured burst that lasted 72 seconds. Its intensity and composition were unlike anything produced by known phenomena. The astronomer who discovered it wrote "Wow" in the margins of the record, thus giving a name to a mystery that remains unsolved. Decades later, nothing similar has ever been detected again from that same spot in the sky. But that has not been the only anomaly. Over the years, scientists have detected fast radio bursts known as FRBs, which appear suddenly, last mere milliseconds, and vanish without a trace. Some of these bursts originate from distant galaxies and are so powerful that they release more energy in an instant than our sun does in several days. While many scientists propose natural causes such as pulsars or magnetars, other researchers do not rule out the possibility that some may have an artificial origin. Added to this is the discovery of objects with impossible trajectories, such as Oumuamua, an interstellar body that passed through our solar system in 2017. Its speed, shape, and acceleration baffled astronomers. While official theories describe it as a fragment from a distant planet, some experts have suggested it could be an interstellar probe sent by an advanced civilization. And although none of these signals have conclusively proven that we are not alone, they all point to the same conclusion. The universe behaves in ways we still don't fully understand. And that keeps open the most unsettling possibility of all, that something, or someone, out there, has already noticed us. Extraterrestrial biology is not science fiction. While popular imagination has shaped alien beings through cinema and literature, science has begun to seriously consider what life beyond Earth might actually look like. Astrobiology is a modern field that is not based on speculation, but on the analysis of extreme conditions in which life has proven it can develop. What's most surprising is that these conditions are not exclusive to our planet. In the depths of the ocean, where sunlight never reaches and temperatures hover near absolute zero, there are bacteria that survive by feeding on sulfur and methane. In acidic lakes and environments with high levels of radiation, organisms have also been found that reproduce, mutate, and evolve. These are the so-called extremophiles, creatures that have redefined the notion of what is necessary to live. Thanks to them, we now know that life can emerge and thrive in environments very different from Earth's surface. Such discoveries have led scientists to look with new eyes towards certain places in our solar system. Enceladus and Europa, two ice-covered moons orbiting Jupiter and Saturn, have underground oceans. Analysis of the geysers escaping from their surfaces indicates the presence of organic compounds, internal heat, and liquid water. These conditions are reminiscent of Earth's underwater ecosystems, where life exists without the need for oxygen or sunlight. Mars, for its part, remains an enigma. While there is no liquid water on its surface, recent missions have detected hydrated salts and organic compounds that suggest that, at some point, the red planet may have had habitable environments. Some theories propose that if life ever existed on Mars, It may have taken refuge beneath the surface, protected from radiation, in the form of simple but well-adapted microorganisms. The existence of extraterrestrial biology does not need to resemble our own. It could be based on a different element, such as silicon instead of carbon, or use liquids like methane instead of water. And if we consider the thousands of exoplanets discovered in recent decades, it's not hard to imagine that somewhere among them, the conditions arose for something completely different, and yet still alive. If we are not alone, what does that mean for humanity? The possibility that life exists beyond Earth is not only a scientific question, it is an idea that shakes the philosophical, religious, and cultural foundations on which we have built our identity as a species. For millennia, humans have believed themselves to be the center of creation. However, if life, even the most minimal form, were discovered in another corner of the universe, we would have to rethink many things. Is the concept that we are unique still valid? What place do we truly occupy in the cosmos? In the scientific field, the discovery of extraterrestrial life would represent a colossal leap. It would validate the hypothesis that life is not an anomaly, but a natural consequence when certain conditions are met. This would drive new exploration missions, from advanced astrobiology to interstellar engineering. But at the same time, it would place a delicate issue on the table: contact. Because if there is life, there could be intelligence. And what if that intelligence is older, more advanced, and more powerful than ours? Human history has shown that contact between civilizations with different levels of development has rarely been peaceful. In most cases, it has resulted in exploitation, subjugation, or destruction. If we were ever to establish contact with an extraterrestrial species, ethical and security questions would be as important as scientific ones. Should we respond? Should we hide? Can we handle the consequences of being discovered? From another perspective, the knowledge that we are not alone could foster a deeper sense of unity among the peoples of Earth. Political, cultural, or religious differences might seem insignificant in the face of the discovery of another form of life. The awareness of a shared humanity could grow stronger, creating a new global narrative, one not centered on nations, but on the species as a whole. In the end, the true value of exploring the universe lies not only in what we discover out there, but in what those discoveries reveal about ourselves. Because looking toward the stars is also a way of looking inward. And when science dares to imagine the unknown, it reminds us that in this vast cosmos, every question is an opportunity to grow as a civilization. If you have been fascinated by this exploration of the universe and its mysteries, subscribe to Mid-Blown Space so you don't miss any new discoveries. This cosmic event could light up the sky like never before. A star that refuses to die. Almost 3,000 light-years from our planet, a binary star system known as T Coronae Borealis is about to put on a show that happens roughly once a century. The explosion this star emits is not a supernova, but it resembles one enough to become one of the most anticipated astronomical phenomena of the year. This event, known as a recurrent nova, occurs when one of the stars in the system, an extremely dense white dwarf, steals matter from its red giant companion until it reaches a pressure and temperature high enough to trigger a nuclear explosion on its surface. What's fascinating is that after this explosion, the star doesn't vanish. It simply dims during another long cycle of matter accumulation, as if the universe is giving it a second chance. This celestial dance has repeated with surprising regularity. The first time it was observed was in the year 1866, when amateur astronomer John Birmingham, walking under the night sky of Ireland, noticed a new star shining in the constellation of Corona Borealis. Since then, astronomers have kept a close watch for every possible reappearance. The most recent outburst occurred in 1946, and scientists believe a new explosion is imminent, probably within the next few months. These types of events, although more frequent than a supernova, are rare enough to inspire awe every time they occur. At its brightest point, the T Coronae Borealis system could match the luminosity of the most visible stars in the night sky, becoming noticeable even without telescopes. Its apparent magnitude will shift from 10 completely invisible to the naked eye to around 2 or 3, making it one of the most prominent stars for a few days. The mechanism that turns a dying star into a celestial spectacle. To understand why T Coronae Borealis, nicknamed the blazing star, behaves this way, it's necessary to delve into the processes that govern the lives of binary stars. This system is composed of two celestial bodies orbiting one another, a white dwarf and a red giant. The former is the collapsed core of an old star similar to our Sun, a structure so dense that a teaspoon of its matter would weigh tons. The latter, by contrast, is in the final stage of its life, bloated and constantly losing mass. The gravity of the white dwarf is so intense that it slowly pulls matter from its companion, accumulating a superficial layer of hydrogen. Over time, that layer reaches extreme temperatures and pressures, triggering a thermonuclear reaction on the surface of the white dwarf. This reaction does not destroy the star, but it releases an enormous amount of energy, enough for the system to increase its brightness up to 1,500 times within a matter of hours. This is what is known as a classical nova, a repeatable outburst, as long as the system manages to survive itself. What's most surprising is that, unlike supernovae, classical novae do not involve the definitive death of the star. After each explosion, the white dwarf remains almost intact, ready to begin the process of hydrogen accumulation all over again. It's a kind of stellar resurrection, a continuous cycle of buildup, explosion, and rebirth. This behavior has turned T. Coronae Borealis into a natural laboratory for studying the final stages of stellar evolution and the dynamics of binary stars. During the days when the explosion is visible, thousands of astronomers and skywatchers around the world will point their telescopes toward the Corona Borealis constellation. Even those without specialized equipment will be able to spot this bright point appearing where there was nothing before. It will be a rare opportunity to witness, with your own eyes, the power of stellar physics in action. Why this explosion is a unique opportunity for science. Every nova visible from Earth represents an invaluable opportunity for modern astronomy. T. Coronae Borealis is no exception. While in the past humanity was limited to observing these phenomena with the naked eye and recording them in rudimentary ways, today astronomers have access to space telescopes, advanced spectroscopes, and tracking systems that will allow them to study this explosion with unprecedented detail. This includes the ability to analyze the chemical composition of the expelled material, its expansion speed, and the dynamics of the interaction between the white dwarf and its companion. When the nova occurs, instruments will be ready to capture the first signs of the outburst. The light emitted by the explosion will travel 3,000 light-years before reaching us. This time delay means that, in a sense, we will be witnessing an event that occurred long before human civilizations, as we know them, even existed. The information contained in that light may reveal details about the temperature of the stellar plasma, the presence of elements such as carbon, oxygen, or iron, and the energy distribution across different wavelengths. In addition, observatories will be able to measure emissions in X-rays, ultraviolet, and infrared radiation. This will help to better understand how magnetic fields behave during these explosions and how they interact with the interstellar medium. The study of novae is also key to improving our understanding of more violent events, such as Type Ia supernovae, which do completely destroy the white dwarf and are essential for measuring cosmic distances in the universe. The nova of the blaze star, as it is also known, will serve to test astrophysical models about mass transfer, thermonuclear detonation, and the evolution of binary systems. Scientists hope this event will provide data that help solve an old mystery: when and why a white dwarf transitions from the nova cycle to the supernova stage. Understanding this leap could shed light on the history of many galaxies, including our own. The scientific community is preparing with great enthusiasm, and you can be part of this unique event too. All you have to do is look up at the sky at the right moment and perhaps witness one of the most breathtaking spectacles in the cosmos. How and when you can see the nova with your own eyes. Witnessing a nova with the naked eye is not something that happens every day. For most people, this phenomenon is as rare as seeing a bright comet or a total solar eclipse. That's why the outburst of T. Coronae Borealis represents a historic opportunity. And the best part is, you don't need to be an astronomer or own a telescope to enjoy the show. All it takes is looking up at the sky at the right moment. Although the exact date of the explosion cannot be predicted, astronomers have studied the activity patterns of this binary star for decades. The last time a nova occurred in this system was in the year 1946. Nearly 80 years have passed since then, and everything indicates that the new eruption is about to happen. Experts agree that it will likely take place during the second half of 2024, probably sometime between July and September. When it happens, the blaze star will suddenly increase in brightness. It will go from a magnitude of 10, invisible to the human eye, to a magnitude between 2 and 3, placing it among the brightest stars in the night sky. For comparison, it will shine similarly to Polaris, the North Star. This change will be so dramatic that it may appear as if a new star has been born in the sky, and indeed, that's what many ancient cultures believed when witnessing similar phenomena. To find it, you'll need to locate the Corona Borealis constellation, a semicircle of stars in the northern sky, between the constellations Hercules and Boötes. From hemispheres with clear skies and little light pollution, it will be visible without any technical aid. However, if you do have binoculars or a basic telescope, you'll be able to notice details in the color and the surroundings of the exploding star. The visibility won't last long. Within days, the nova will slowly fade until it disappears once again. That's why it's important to stay alert to astronomical announcements. Various observatories and science media will report in real time when the nova begins. If you want to experience a unique astronomical moment, all you'll need is some patience, a clear sky, and to look where the universe decides to ignite a new, fleeting yet unforgettable light. If you enjoyed this journey through the mysteries of the cosmos, subscribe to Midblown Space and join us for every new adventure the stars have in store. The day NASA opened a space capsule and couldn't believe what they found. Introduction to NASA's most anticipated journey. In September 2023, a small capsule pierced Earth's atmosphere at an astonishing speed. It came from deep space, from a destination almost forgotten by the human eye, but unforgettable for science. Its contents were a treasure like no other, dust and fragments from an asteroid that had been wandering the solar system since before Earth even existed. This was not just a return mission, it was a time capsule sent from the dawn of the cosmos. Its name, OSIRIS-REx, was already destined to make history. The capsule had been launched 7 years earlier, in 2016, with an ambitious goal: to reach the asteroid Bennu, a celestial body about 500 meters in diameter that could contain clues about the origin of the solar system and the primitive ingredients of life. When it finally touched the surface of the asteroid in 2020, the spacecraft collected a valuable sample that would set the course of planetary science for the coming decades. The re-entry was calculated with millimetric precision. More than 100,000 kilometers from Earth, the capsule was released to begin its descent. It reached temperatures exceeding 2,700 degrees Celsius, enough to melt steel, but was protected by a state-of-the-art heat shield that kept intact its most precious cargo: rocks and dust more than 4.5 billion years old. Nothing like this had ever returned from outer space. The landing took place in the Utah desert, in the western United States, within an area roughly the size of the city of Chicago. The descent was assisted by parachutes that slowed the speed to less than 20 kilometers per hour. In just 10 minutes, the capsule went from traveling faster than a bullet to resting in the sand. The operation was flawless, and the entire world watched in awe. A sealed capsule and a mystery impossible to open. After its controlled landing, the capsule was retrieved by a specialized NASA team. Transported by helicopter to a clean room at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, its contents had to be kept completely isolated from Earth's air. Any contact with oxygen or moisture could alter the original composition of the space dust. For that reason, a nitrogen-sealed glove box was used, a controlled environment that would prevent contamination of the samples. There, the most delicate operation began, opening the capsule and discovering what it had brought back from the depths of asteroid Bennu. But something unexpected happened. Although the technicians had trained for months and every step had been meticulously rehearsed, the lid of the main container did not open as planned. 2 of the 35 screws were stuck. Dust from the asteroid had apparently infiltrated the threads, jamming the locking mechanism. There was no compatible tool that could remove them without damaging the seal or compromising the sterile environment. It was necessary to design a brand new tool from scratch, a sort of surgical screwdriver made of non-magnetic stainless steel and approved for use inside the glove box. Meanwhile, on the outside of the capsule, 70 grams of dust and small stones were found. This material, known as the bonus sample, was not part of the main container but turned out to be a scientific surprise. It was more than the mission had promised to collect in total. Although not completely pristine, its study began immediately. Even so, researchers knew the real treasure was inside, untouched, and they waited eagerly for the sealed compartment to be opened. After 3 months of work, with new tools and precise maneuvers, the team finally managed to open the core of the container. What appeared before their eyes was even more surprising: 1 additional grams of pristine material, never before touched by Earth's atmosphere. In this way, NASA not only met its goal but far exceeded it. In total, the recovered material doubled what had been planned. Asteroid Bennu had offered more than anyone dared to imagine, the hidden message in asteroid dust. The true value of the OSIRIS-REx mission is not measured in grams, but in the clues each particle can offer about the origin of life. When analyzing the contents of asteroid Bennu, scientists found something extraordinary: organic compounds, hydrated minerals, and pre-solar grains. The latter are authentic cosmic relics. They formed long before the birth of the sun, in the final stages of life of ancient stars. When those stars exploded as supernovae, they scattered their elements into space. Some of that material floated for millions of years until it became part of interstellar dust clouds, from which new stars, planets, and in this case, asteroids like Bennu were born. The pre-solar grains preserved inside the asteroid allow astronomers to study the history prior to the solar system. Some show chemical compositions typical of red giant stars, while others are linked to supernovae. It is like holding in your hands the primitive bricks with which our cosmic neighborhood was built. This matter, resistant to the passage of time, remained encapsulated within Bennu for more than 4.5 billion years, waiting to be revealed. In addition to these grains, researchers found minerals such as serpentine and pyrrhotite, both formed in the presence of liquid water. This suggests that Bennu, or the body it came from, may have had internal oceans or undergone hydrothermal processes, and if there was water, could microscopic life have existed? There's no direct evidence of it, but the presence of compounds such as phosphates essential in the structure of DNA raises more questions than answers. These discoveries suggest that Bennu was once part of a larger body, possibly a protoplanet with favorable chemical conditions. The results obtained so far only scratch the surface of knowledge. Most of the material has been stored in ideal conditions so that future generations, with more advanced technologies, can continue the exploration. Science moves forward with patience, and this legacy promises answers to questions we don't yet know how to ask. In that small handful of space, dust may lie the key to our very existence. The story Bennu tells has only just begun, the future that takes off from stardust. The OSIRIS-REx mission did not end with the return of Bennu's material. Shortly after releasing the capsule that descended into the Utah desert, the main spacecraft fired its thrusters and embarked on a new journey. Its destination is now the asteroid Apophis, which it will reach in 2029. This extension of the project, now known as OSIRIS-APEX, represents a new opportunity to continue exploring the secrets of the minor bodies of the solar system, but without the need to bring samples back to Earth. Instead, the spacecraft will approach within just 5 meters of Apophis's surface and stir up its terrain with a burst from its engines to analyze in detail what lies beneath the outer layer. The interest in Apophis is no coincidence. For years, it was considered a possible impact threat to Earth, although the most recent measurements have ruled out that possibility for at least the next 100 years. However, its extremely close pass in 2029, at less than 40,000 kilometers from Earth's surface, is a unique opportunity. Studying it up close will make it possible to understand how a planet's gravitational forces affect the structure and composition of an asteroid. Meanwhile, Bennu's legacy continues to grow. The collected samples have been distributed among laboratories around the world and will be the subject of study for decades. Scientists specializing in astrobiology, organic chemistry, mineralogy, and planetary geology are deeply engaged in their analysis. Each tiny fragment holds a record of ancient processes, cosmic collisions, chemical reactions, water flows, and even traces of the elements necessary for life. These kinds of investigations not only reveal the history of the past, but also serve as preparation for the future. The exploration of asteroids is key to protecting Earth, understanding the origin of planets, and, one day, harnessing the mineral resources of these bodies. In Bennu's dust is written a story that connects distant stars, ancient worlds, and the birth of life on our planet. If you found this content fascinating, subscribe to Midblown Space and turn on the notification bell. Here we bring you the most mind-blowing mysteries of the universe every week. Because in Stardust, there are answers that change everything. Something invisible is pushing our galaxy, and no one can stop it. Welcome to the epicenter of cosmic mystery. Welcome to Mindblown Space, where what we don't understand becomes even more fascinating. Today, our galaxy is moving at full speed. And you know what's the best part? Nobody knows for sure where or why, and if that wasn't enough, there is an unknown event that, when you discover it, will make you rethink everything you thought about the universe. but we'll get to that. Right now, as you listen to this, you are traveling through space at speeds that would make any luxury car cry. The Earth spins on its axis, orbits the Sun moves through the Milky Way, and the Milky Way itself sails between clusters of galaxies whose names are hard to even pronounce. So far, so good. The universe is vast, we move within it, nothing strange. Until scientists notice something that didn't add up at all. It turns out that our galaxy, along with many others, is moving toward a region known as the Shapley supercluster, an area with an extremely high density of galaxies. Logic indicated that we were being pulled there by gravity. But there's a problem. The calculations don't add up. The mass in that region isn't enough to explain the speed at which we're moving. I repeat, the universe is moving too fast and no one knows why. Up to this point, one might think something hidden is pulling us, but the surprise is even greater. What was discovered is not something pulling us, it's something pushing us. And no, it's not a black hole or some playful dark energy. It's nothing. A void, literally empty. Scientists have called it the dipolar repeller. And according to them, what we feel is not a pull, it's a cosmic kick. Since when does nothing push things? Welcome to the universe, where even emptiness has character. And the most unsettling part is that, although this nothingness seems harmless, it's affecting the path of our entire galaxy. A little push here, a deviation there. And suddenly, our place in the universe stops making sense. The universe doesn't stay still, and neither do you. Sometimes we think we're tucked away in a quiet corner of the cosmos, peacefully floating in a soup of stars. But the truth is much more unsettling. We move. Everything moves. And not slowly like in those romantic space movie scenes. We're traveling at absurd speeds, as if the universe is in a hurry. The Earth spins at over 1,600 kilometers per hour. It orbits the Sun at over 100,000 kilometers per hour. And that's just the beginning of this galactic roller coaster. Our entire galaxy, the gigantic Milky Way, moves through space like a rocket without a fixed direction. But here comes the most mind-blowing part. It's not moving alone. It's part of an even larger structure, the Laniakea supercluster, which itself moves toward another even more massive supercluster, the Shapley supercluster. Great. Everything seems to fit, until physicists decided to do the math. And then came the big scientific slap. There isn't enough matter to justify such speed. Look, we have a universe where everything should behave with a certain gravitational logic, but it turns out something is pushing us, not pulling, like some cosmic ghost blowing in our backs. And that something has no name, no mass, and no sense. But still, it's there. At least that's what astronomers say, who have resigned themselves to living with the inexplicable. And here enters the famous dipolar repeller. It's not a star, it's not a planet, not a black hole or a galactic gas cloud. It's, get this, a void. Yes, a place so empty that its lack of mass causes a gravitational repulsion effect, or rather, an illusion of a push, because really, nothing is pushing. What happens is that since there's nothing in that area, everything else exerts more attraction, creating the feeling that we're being pushed away. If you thought gravity only pulls, the universe has other ideas. The best part is that this phenomenon is so enormous, it affects the movement of thousands of galaxies, not just ours. And yet, it's hidden behind a curtain of stellar dust that keeps us from observing it directly. As if the universe, besides being sarcastic, were also shy. When nothingness becomes the main character. Since the invention of telescopes, astronomers have been obsessed with searching for things. Galaxies, clusters, supernovas, nebulas, whatever. But this time, the mystery isn't in what we see, but in what we don't see. The dipolar repeller is not a presence, it's an absence with attitude. A void that, instead of going unnoticed like any decent void, has decided to disrupt half the universe's balance. And it does so from the shadows, or rather, from the famous zone of avoidance. What is that? Basically, it's the part of the sky we can't see because the Milky Way gets in the way with its gas, dust, and desire to hide mysteries. Behind that cosmic veil lies everything we don't want to face, the unknown, the invisible, and the scientifically frustrating. When scientists began mapping the movements of nearby galaxies, they noticed a strange pattern. Some were clearly heading toward the Shapley supercluster, as expected. But others seemed to be moving away from a specific region, as if that zone was so uncomfortable that galaxies decided not to get close. And as good humans do, when something scares thousands of galaxies, the first thing we do is name it. That's how the dipolar repeller was born. But how the heck can something that doesn't exist push galaxies? Here comes an explanation only the universe could invent. If the cosmos were evenly filled with matter, there would be no movement. Forces would balance out in all directions. But if suddenly you remove matter from one side, the balance breaks. Not because there's an active force, but because there is attraction on the other side. So everything seems to flee the void, or in other words, the void seems to push. It's an illusion, yes, but an illusion with real consequences. This bubble of nothingness, about 100 million light-years in diameter, has reshaped the course of our galaxy and many others. It has no official name beyond the repeller, doesn't shine, doesn't emit heat, doesn't make noise, and yet moves gigantic structures of the universe like pieces on a cosmic chessboard. In short, the universe doesn't need monsters to scare you. Sometimes what's most frightening is what isn't there. The invisible push that changed everything. After so many twists, impossible numbers, and voids with a god complex, it's time to unveil the mystery I mentioned at the beginning. That cosmic event so absurd it seems ripped from a scientific parody. Get ready, our entire galaxy is being pushed by a hole in the universe. That simple, and that insane. Forget about alien civilizations pulling us with gravitational hooks. What's really moving us is the absence of something. An immense hole of nothingness, perfectly positioned just right to tip the cosmic balance. Sounds like a cruel joke from the universe, but it's pure physics. Or at least, that's what scientists try to explain without pulling their hair out. The key is understanding that the universe's expansion doesn't happen uniformly. Where there's more mass, there's more gravity, which slows expansion. But in an empty region, without matter to hold it back, expansion runs wild. Space stretches faster, and that stretching causes nearby things to move away. That's how a void ends up acting like a cosmic engine. The most mind-blowing part is when astronomers compared the direction of our motion with known locations of massive clusters like Shapley, they noticed something didn't add up. The push came from somewhere else. And when they traced flow lines, the big surprise was discovering that the dipolar repeller's void explained our trajectory better than any cluster loaded with tons of mass. I repeat, a void explains our movement better than a galactic mountain of matter. As if that weren't enough, the void cannot be seen. It emits no light, has no color, cannot be photographed with a common camera. It's only inferred from the strange behavior of the rest of the universe. It's like trying to catch a ghost by watching how the curtains move. Since this idea was proposed in 2017, the scientific community has been debating, correcting models, and struggling with telescopes that refuse to look where they should. But one thing is clear, the universe doesn't need to be full to move. Sometimes, all it takes is removing one piece for everything else to start rolling. And so, without explosions or portals, our galaxy is on its way to the unknown, pushed by the most elegant engine of all, the void. Thanks for watching Mind-Blown Space. If the universe has left you baffled, subscribe and share this video with anyone who needs a good dose of cosmic reality. See you on the next journey. The longest hour in human history, and it happened off-planet. Imagine being on the verge of crashing into the moon while hearing an unexplainable whistling sound, with no idea whether it's real, coming from the spacecraft, or simply the sound of your own mind melting. Now imagine you're also completely cut off. For nearly an hour. No Earth, no control, no nothing. Welcome to the most chilling blackout ever experienced in space. This happened during the Apollo 10 mission, when astronauts Eugene Cernan, Thomas Stafford, and John Young made history piloting the lunar module Snoopy so close to the surface that they nearly kissed it with their helmets. But of course, this wasn't a Sunday joyride. The moment they lost sight of Earth, radio communications collapsed. The silence was so absolute that only one thought lingered in their heads, the possibility of never coming back. According to Cernan, it was the strangest and most distressing experience he had ever lived through. And that's coming from a man who orbited the moon inside a metallic, powered by fuel and hope. The sound they kept hearing, a kind of eerie whistle, was constant throughout the blackout, as if someone or something was trying to communicate, but not in any human language. Years later, NASA would still be unable to explain the exact origin of the phenomenon. Some say it was the moon itself, acting as a cosmic mirror that distorted the signals. Others, a bit more creative, claim the communication was deliberately cut off because the crew saw something they were never meant to see. A classic space conspiracy move, with a hint of, let's bury this before CNN finds out. Thomas Stafford summed it up bluntly. It was the loneliest experience of his life. So lonely that his mind literally began to wander, like a lost tourist in Tokyo. The pressure of being completely isolated in a deadly environment made him question even his own perception of time. And while the astronauts were sweating inside their capsule, Earth kept spinning, unaware that three men were locked inside with total emptiness as their only companions separated from nothingness by just a few centimeters of aluminum. The astronaut who saw a snake floating in space, and it wasn't a metaphor. You'd think space is full of logical things, planets, stars, maybe a satellite or two, and mostly just empty. But then along comes Franklin Story Musgrave, the astronaut with more university degrees than half the planet's libraries, and he tells us he saw an 8-meter snake calmly gliding in front of his spacecraft. That's right, a snake. In space. And no, it wasn't a bad dream or some poetic metaphor. It started as a white floating panel, and then turned into something long, flexible, and supposedly rubbery in texture. Totally normal, right? During the STS-61 mission of the Space Shuttle, Musgrave, aka the Professor of Space, reported seeing this entity twice. The first time, it looked like a harmless, shiny structure. The second, something far more unsettling. It moved fluidly and had a disturbingly lifelike attitude. The official explanation? Space debris. Of course, because apparently space junk now does interpretive dance. The most disturbing part wasn't just the appearance of the serpentoid, but the fact that it seemed to follow the spacecraft for hours. Musgrave, whose academic resume is scarier than the snake itself, flat out refused to believe it was a random piece of detached metal. He was convinced he had witnessed a form of unknown life, probably made up of amino acids or some other unclassified biocosmic eccentricity. NASA, of course, responded with their usual "thanks for your input, doctor," but no. No public investigation, no official statement, just silence. And not the cool kind you get in space, this one was much closer to home. Because the most awkward part wasn't the floating snake in low orbit, it was that no one wanted to talk about it. After retiring, Musgrave dedicated himself to trying to contact extraterrestrial beings, as if it were the most casual thing in the world. According to him, these civilizations have been circling Earth longer than we've been inventing excuses to stay home. And while his theories were received with a mix of fascination and maybe don't invite Musgrave to dinner, no one has been able to disprove what he saw. Because let's be honest, if the most educated person to ever go to space says he saw a floating snake, maybe it's time to start questioning what we think we know. The day the capsule was chased by something that wasn't supposed to be there. Gordon Cooper was no rookie. Test pilot, aerospace engineer, and one of the first astronauts in history, Cooper had logged more hours in the sky than an insomniac satellite. But nothing prepared him for what he saw during the Mercury 9 mission in 1963, an unidentified craft floating right next to his capsule. And we're not talking about a flicker or a reflection. We're talking about a solid, defined object, and one that seemed genuinely interested in his presence. In his own words, Cooper observed the object for over 10 minutes. He saw it appear, disappear, reappear, and just to add a cosmic cherry on top, move closer to his ship. It followed at short range, keeping a parallel trajectory, like it was evaluating the menu before deciding whether or not to eat him. Cooper, meanwhile, calmly reported the situation to Mission Control, with the kind of poise only someone who's seen it all can maintain, except that this actually shocked him. A lot. And if you're thinking it was a space-induced hallucination courtesy of orbital loneliness, think again. The radar picked up the craft too. Yes, whatever it was had physical presence and left technical records. The problem came afterward. NASA, as it had done many times before, went into full "this never happened" mode and deployed the total silence protocol. Cooper, however, wasn't playing along. He kept talking about it until retirement and beyond. In interviews throughout the 80s and 2000s, he not only stood by what he saw, he also stated that the government knew exactly what was going on. According to him, extraterrestrials weren't just visiting us, they had been doing it for centuries. He even went so far as to speculate that some were here to help us. Yes, seriously. Aliens with a planetary volunteer spirit? Wonderful. Despite the criticism, Cooper never retracted a word. He wasn't chasing fame either. He simply told what he saw. A silent, intelligent craft that seemed to be observing, and then vanished into space, as if it knew it had already seen enough. And meanwhile, here on Earth, we keep wondering if we're alone while ignoring the possibility that someone long ago may have started watching and is still taking notes. The floating tentacle no one could explain. Leroy Chiao was everything you'd expect from an elite astronaut, chemical engineer, space mission pilot, and commander of the International Space Station. A serious guy, a scientist, with his feet on the ground, except when he was literally floating hundreds of kilometers above it. And it was precisely there, in the absolute stillness of space, that he had one of the most unsettling encounters ever recorded. The appearance of an entity with limbs, hovering near the module as if it were waiting for something. Or worse, as if it already knew everything. During a spacewalk in 2005, Chiao observed a transparent figure with what appeared to be tentacles or movable appendages resting on a metallic structure. The reaction from mission control on Earth? A mix of awkward silence and PR-worthy evasions, because nothing says scientific credibility, like ignoring the guy who's literally watching something weird in real time. According to Chiao, the object didn't behave like space debris or a drifting artifact. It had presence, intention. He claimed it seemed to observe, move smoothly, and keep a certain distance, as if it knew exactly how close it could get without triggering alarms. Oh, and it had lights. Because obviously, if you're going to be a strange apparition in space, you'd better glow a little. Of course, NASA never officially confirmed what Chiao said. Nor did they deny receiving his report. They simply let the matter fade away among less spine-chilling headlines. But that didn't stop the ex-astronaut, who later took part in conferences on paranormal phenomena and unidentified encounters. What he saw wasn't an optical illusion, or a reflection, or a delusion. It was something that left a mark. Chiao never spoke of invasions or threats, but he made it clear that, for a few moments, he knew he wasn't alone. And that feeling, coming from someone trained to face the absolute void, should really make us think. Because in the end, the real terror isn't what floats in space. It's the idea that we're not the only ones floating out there. Thanks for joining us on Mind Blown Space, where science and mystery shake hands from orbit. If you're craving more encounters from beyond this world, subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell us, would you be able to keep working if a transparent tentacle peeked through your window? See you soon. Unless we get abducted first.